A grainy clip drops on a random Monday. 12 seconds. No caption. No context. Inside those 12 seconds, Lil Tim is standing shoulder to shoulder with the exact human beings NBA YoungBoy would cross an ocean to avoid. Not near. Not passing by. Shoulder to shoulder. Laughing. Play the clip once, and the clip looks like nothing. Play twice, and the clip looks like a confession filmed by accident. Play 3 times, and the entire 6-year war between NBA YoungBoy and Lil Durk's camp reorganizes around one woman's smile in a Louisiana club. And the internet finally understands why NBA YoungBoy packed up 11 children, a wife, and a 9-figure catalog and moved to South Korea with the words "never in life" stapled to the plane ticket. Stay with the breakdown. The timeline nobody is willing to put on paper is the timeline that explains everything. And by the end of the next 15 minutes, the phrase "loving my mother from a distance" reads less like a wounded confession and more like a warning shot fired 6 months before the ambush was filmed. Here is the surface first. The clip surfaces in mid-August 2026. The clip shows Sharonda Golden, the mother of NBA YoungBoy, at what looks like a public event, a club appearance, a birthday, a promo room, the specific address unconfirmed. Around Sharonda in the frame are individuals fans identified inside 40 seconds as connected to OTF, the collective Lil Durk built out of the south side of Chicago, the same collective at war with NBA YoungBoy's Never Broke Again camp since before King Von was killed in Atlanta in November 2020. That is the frame. That is the picture. That is what fingers pointed at the moment the clip left the phone. But the picture is not the story. The picture is the door. The story is what walks through the door once NBA YoungBoy's own words are laid on top of the frame. 2 weeks before the clip surfaced, NBA YoungBoy sat down in Seoul with Funny Marco for the Open Thoughts podcast and said, on camera, in a voice so calm the calm was frightening, that NBA YoungBoy had made peace with never speaking to Sharonda again. NBA YoungBoy said certain damage cannot be repaired. NBA YoungBoy said the way forward was loving Sharonda from a distance, not because love had died, but because closeness had become a form of injury. Then the clip dropped. An audience that had been chewing on the podcast for 14 days finally saw a possible reason, a physical reason, a receipt in motion, for why NBA YoungBoy had walked away. Slow down. This is where every other channel is running the framing wrong. Every channel is treating the clip as the cause and the estrangement as the effect. That framing is backwards. That framing is convenient. That framing is what happens when a channel finds a viral clip and reverse engineers a narrative around the visual. The truth is older and sitting in plain view. The estrangement came first. The clip came second. The clip is not the reason NBA YoungBoy left. The clip is the evidence that leaving was correct. 2019. NBA YoungBoy is 20. NBA YoungBoy just bought Sharonda a house. Sharonda goes on Instagram Live and tells the world NBA YoungBoy attached rules to the keys. Sharonda says Sharonda would sooner sleep under the interstate than let NBA YoungBoy's money dictate a single decision under Sharonda's roof. That is 2019. First crack, filmed live, screamed into a phone. Rewind to 2020. King Von is shot and killed outside a hookah lounge in Atlanta on November 6th. The alleged triggerman, later identified as Lil Tim, is connected by association to Quando Rondo, and Quando Rondo at the time is signed to Never Broke Again, NBA YoungBoy's label. Charges against Lil Tim were eventually dropped, but the connection was carved into marble that night, and OTF's grief hardened into something OTF has never let go of. Lil Durk released Aha, a track everyone with a working set of ears heard as a direct shot at NBA YoungBoy's world. NBA YoungBoy answered with I Hate YoungBoy, targeting Quando Rondo, Lil Durk, and Lil Durk's fiancée India Royale. From that November forward, the space between the two camps was not a rap rivalry anymore. The space between the two camps was a graveyard. Rewind to September 2025. NBA YoungBoy is on the Massa Tour, reportedly clearing $1.5 million per night. And NBA YoungBoy brings Lil Tim onto the stage in Atlanta and performs the diss track with Lil Tim standing 3 feet away. Fans read the moment for what the moment was. A middle finger extended in the specific direction of Chicago. Days later, the United Center in Chicago cancels the tour date citing security. Sharonda goes on live again, and tells fans the show was pulled to protect fans, not to punish fans, and vouches openly for NBA YoungBoy in the process. September 2025. Sharonda is publicly, visibly, undeniably on the Sun's side. Fast forward 11 months. August 2026. NBA YoungBoy tells Funny Marco the relationship is over. Sharonda takes to Instagram inside 72 hours and pivots toward NBA YoungBoy's parenting of NBA YoungBoy's own children, accusing NBA YoungBoy of hypocrisy for cutting off a mother while allegedly not speaking to a subset of the 11 kids. Sharonda also claims Sharonda was present at the Funny Marco interview, a claim NBA YoungBoy flatly disproves with a single sentence about South Korea and a passport Sharonda has never used. Sharonda walks the claim back. But the damage is filed, time-stamped, screenshotted. NBA YoungBoy returns to Instagram Live and drops the line that will echo through this entire year. NBA YoungBoy no longer carries the love or the respect NBA YoungBoy once carried for Sharonda. That is a door being welded shut, not simply closed. And that is the exact context, that fresh open wound, into which the OTF footage falls. Understand the physics of what happens when a clip lands in a wound instead of a vacuum. A neutral audience sees a woman at an event and scrolls. An audience already primed by a Funny Marco quote sees the mother of NBA YoungBoy next to the enemies of NBA YoungBoy and reaches for a theory faster than the phone can lock. The theory writes the caption. The theory adds a soundtrack the clip never had. The theory drags King Von's ghost, Lil Tim, every diss record, every cancelled concert, every dead friend, every prison cell, every ankle monitor, every swollen heart into the frame, and none of those things were physically in the room the clip was filmed in. But all of those things are now permanently inside the 12 seconds, because that is what the internet does to unfiled evidence. The buried detail nobody in the coverage has surfaced is the detail that changes the shape of the entire story. Here is the detail. Every previous rupture between NBA YoungBoy and Sharonda arrived with a clean explanation. 2019 was a house. 2022 was Sharonda commenting on NBA YoungBoy's kids online. Early 2025 was Sharonda defending NBA YoungBoy from NLE Choppa and pivoting into another live. In every prior fight, Sharonda offered a reason inside 24 hours. Sharonda always speaks. Sharonda always defends. Sharonda always plants a flag. August 2026 is the first time in 6 years Sharonda has not offered a clean explanation for what a camera caught. No statement about who booked the event. No clarification about who invited Sharonda. No apology, no reframing, no receipt. Just the pivot to the parenting counterattack. Just the walked-back claim about Korea. Just silence in the exact place where an explanation should be sitting. Silence is a signature. Silence is a fingerprint. In a career built on immediate, unfiltered response, silence at the specific moment the world is asking a specific question is not silence at all. Silence is a decision, which forces the buried question the polite channels will not ask. Was the OTF room a one-time accident or a season-long pattern? Because a frame is a single photograph, but the story of a photograph is always older than the shutter. Fans on Reddit and X are already stitching together a second, third, fourth thread of Sharonda in the same city as OTF-adjacent figures across 6 months. Not confirmed. But the moment a first frame exists, every prior frame gets reopened. That is the mechanic. That is why one clip can reprice a decade. Stack the physical geography on the emotional geography, because the physical geography is the piece the surface coverage refuses to interrogate. NBA YoungBoy is not in Louisiana, not in Utah, not in LA, Atlanta, Miami, Houston, or Chicago. NBA YoungBoy is in Seoul. NBA YoungBoy said never in life to returning to America. That single detail flips the meaning of the OTF clip. In the version where NBA YoungBoy is still in Baton Rouge, the clip is a domestic wound. NBA YoungBoy could confront the frame, verify the frame, respond in the room. In the version we are actually inside, NBA YoungBoy watches Sharonda posted with OTF from across the Pacific, on a delay, through a screen, with no ability to walk into any room and ask a question. That distance is not just physical. That distance is evidentiary. NBA YoungBoy has permanently removed the option to correct the record in person, which means NBA YoungBoy already knew months ago that no such correction was coming, because NBA YoungBoy had already priced the answer into the move to Korea. That is the connect the dots no other channel has drawn. The move to Seoul, the Trump pardon in May 2025, the finished Masa tour, the last two albums announcement, the swollen left ventricle NBA YoungBoy hid from the touring crew, the marriage to Jaslyn Michelle, the 11 children, the never in life. Every piece points at one behavior. NBA YoungBoy was closing the American chapter one lock at a time, and the lock on the door labeled Shironda was the last lock to click. The OTF clip is not the reason the lock clicked. The OTF clip is proof the lock needed to be clicked years ago. Bring OTF's grief into the room, because OTF's grief is the missing weight in every other breakdown. King Von was not a bar. King Von was a brother. Lil Durk mourned King Von publicly with a rawness anybody who watched the videos remembers. The people OTF has stood beside since November 2020 all understood King Von's absence rearranged the compass. OTF is not a costume. OTF is a covenant. So when fans see Shironda in a frame with people wearing that covenant, fans do not see a woman at a club. Fans see the mother of the man whose orbit produced the alleged shooter standing next to the family of the victim. Whether Shironda knows the covenant Shironda is standing inside does not matter to the internet. The frame does the argument. The frame is the argument. Consider the moral inversion no channel will place on the table. The story America has been told about NBA YoungBoy for a decade is that NBA YoungBoy is difficult, volatile, incarcerated, medicated, unparented, unmanaged, unfixed. Convenient story. That story lets everybody around NBA YoungBoy sell tickets, sell interviews, sell live sessions, sell reactions, sell judgments, without ever asking whether NBA YoungBoy has been the most reliable narrator in NBA YoungBoy's own life the entire time. Consider the possibility that NBA YoungBoy has been telling the truth, plainly, for 6 years, and the only reason the world is finally listening is that a 12-second clip of Shironda in the wrong room forced the world to check the receipts. Shironda is a public figure. Shironda has a following. Shironda has appeared on Steel 400 with Manny Fresh and Juvenile. Shironda has walked into every camera pointed at Shironda for a decade, which means Shironda has known for years what OTF signals since November 2020. There is no version where Shironda walks into an OTF-populated room accidentally without recognizing the temperature. Shironda knew the room. Shironda entered anyway. That is the sentence the internet is trying to say without saying. And that is the sentence that makes the estrangement retroactively coherent instead of retroactively cruel. Or hear the other reading, because the other reading is real too. Perhaps Shironda was booked and did not know the guest list. Perhaps a promoter arranged the room and Shironda arrived last. Perhaps the OTF-connected figures are peripheral, hangers-on, cousins of cousins with a hat that photographs like a flag. Perhaps Shironda did nothing wrong, and the estrangement has nothing to do with Chicago, and the 12 seconds is a coincidence the internet weaponized into a verdict. Perhaps. Perhaps has a shelf life. Perhaps expires the moment silence lasts longer than a legitimate explanation would take to type. Perhaps has been expiring in real time for 72 hours, and every hour that passes without Shironda offering a single unforced sentence about where Shironda was, who invited Shironda, and why Shironda stayed after recognizing who filled the room, the perhaps evaporates further, and the theory hardens more. Zoom into the phrase "loving my mother from a distance," because every channel has mispronounced that phrase for 2 weeks. Loving from a distance is not the language of a person still fighting. Loving from a distance is the language of a person who has lost the fight and rebuilt on the other side of the loss. That is why NBA YoungBoy said the sentence without emotion. That is why NBA YoungBoy grabbed the chest and mentioned the swollen ventricle in the same conversation. NBA YoungBoy was not staging a soliloquy. NBA YoungBoy was updating the world on a diagnosis NBA YoungBoy had already accepted. The mother is gone. The country is gone. The body has been signaling for a year. The music has 1 or 2 projects left. Everything is being closed. Everything is being priced in. The OTF clip did not break NBA YoungBoy. The OTF clip vindicated NBA YoungBoy. That is the moral inversion that changes the entire story. The channels running this footage is scandalous, as shocking, as the smoking gun that finally reveals why NBA YoungBoy walked away, are burying the lead. The clip is not the reveal. The clip is the confirmation. The reveal was the Funny Marco interview, and before that the September 2025 live, and before that the 2019 house drama, and before that a childhood in which NBA YoungBoy's grandmother did the raising while Sharonda did the moving. The clip is chapter 42 of a book NBA YoungBoy has been publishing in real time since NBA YoungBoy was 14 years old. Which brings the story to the part nobody wants to say out loud. Sharonda's silence around the OTF footage matters, because Sharonda's public voice has never been silent about anything else. Sharonda has clapped back at NLE Choppa. Sharonda has clapped back at fans. Sharonda has clapped back at rappers mothers Sharonda has never met. Sharonda has clapped back at strangers. Sharonda has never chosen silence until now, until the specific question about the specific room, and the pattern break is louder than any Instagram live Sharonda has ever recorded. In a decade-long career of talking, the first silence is the only sentence that matters. Meanwhile, NBA YoungBoy is in Seoul with a wife, 11 children, a swollen heart, a finished tour, a pardon signed by Donald Trump in May 2025, and a 2-album countdown to retirement. NBA YoungBoy is not fighting the OTF clip. NBA YoungBoy is not posting a response. NBA YoungBoy is not clipping the moment for a music video. NBA YoungBoy is not sending Never Broke Again members to the venue to ask questions. NBA YoungBoy is not saying a single word. Because to NBA YoungBoy the clip is not new information. The clip is old information finally reaching the audience that spent a decade doubting NBA YoungBoy's version of the story. Now consider what the industry is quietly recalculating in the wake of all of this. Every collaborator, every producer, every A&R, every touring manager, every podcast host is doing the same math. If Sharonda ends up genuinely connected to OTF-adjacent figures beyond a single event, the perception of Never Broke Against internal loyalty structure reprices in a specific direction, and the perception of who exactly has been feeding what to whom during 6 years of feuding shifts under every previous assumption. That is not a small industry recalibration. That is a foundation crack. That is the reason the clip is being replayed and discussed in every corner of hip-hop media at the same time. And then remember the last piece nobody is putting in the picture. Kentrell Deshaun Golden turned 26 in October 2025. Kentrell Deshaun Golden was born in Baton Rouge in 1999 to a father sentenced to 55 years in prison for murder when Kentrell was 8 years old, and to a mother who moved away, and to a grandmother who stayed, and to a childhood that installed a permanent radar for the exact moment a caregiver's loyalty stops being aimed at Kentrell. That radar is not paranoia. That radar is survival hardware, calibrated in a house with no father and a rotating cast of guardians, and calibrated further by every year in the system, every ankle monitor, every federal prosecutor, every settled beef, every unsettled beef. The radar has been running for 26 years. The radar picked up a signal in the summer of 2026 that the Funny Marco interview was the receipt for. The OTF clip is the visual proof the radar was calibrated correctly. So what is the story, cleanly, when the noise is stripped away? The story is that NBA YoungBoy left America because NBA YoungBoy already knew what a 12-second clip could show. The story is that Sharonda's silence in August 2026 is a louder statement than any Instagram live Sharonda has ever recorded. The story is that OTF's ongoing grief for King Von is not decoration for a rivalry narrative, but the actual gravitational field that pulls this clip into a category no other clip could occupy. The story is that the internet did not build a false narrative around a real image. The internet finally built a true narrative around an image that had been forming quietly for 6 years. The story is that the mother of NBA YoungBoy is standing in a room, on camera, next to the family of the man whose alleged killer sat in the sun's orbit. And the mother of NBA YoungBoy has not yet found a sentence that can extract Sharonda from the frame. The story is that NBA YoungBoy called this ending long before the camera confirmed the ending was real. And that is why the OTF footage lands the way the OTF footage lands. Not because the clip is dramatic. Because the clip is quiet, and the quietness is the argument. 12 seconds of two people laughing, filmed by a phone that did not know what the phone was filming, has now become the single most consequential piece of public evidence in the ongoing story of a 26-year-old rapper who quietly moved to South Korea and told the world, with a hand on a swollen heart, that certain things cannot be fixed. The clip cannot answer the last question. The clip only asks the last question. Did Sharonda's proximity to OTF-connected figures cause the estrangement, or did the estrangement finally expose a proximity that had been ambient for years? Either answer is a story. Both answers make the same phrase land the same way. NBA YoungBoy loved a mother from a distance because the distance was the only room left in the house where NBA YoungBoy could still stand upright. Drop a comment with a version of the story that matches what the eyes are seeing. Subscribe if the breakdown gave the timeline the shape the timeline deserved. Because the next chapter is already being filmed, and the phone that films the next chapter is not going to warn anyone before the record button gets pressed. The gates are cracked open. The frame is out. The rest is a matter of